Got a 1 minute warning here, folks. Okay, I'm glad. Furman and who?
Anderson University.
I'll let you recognize him.
Tell me later, too.
Okay, Carolyn. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our October Board of Trustees meeting. First item on the agenda is the prayer and the pledge. Would everyone please stand?
May we pray. Almighty God, thank you for bringing us together this evening to advocate for our students. Many individuals in our presence have given years of selfless service to our students. Some have given a lifetime of service. For all these members, we offer our sincere gratitude and praise. Tonight will mark the last night of service for some of our board members. We thank you for their friendship over the years and for their numerous contributions to the children of this district. We ask that you richly bless them in their new endeavors and paths. Moreover, we pray for their successors, that you would grant them wisdom and joy in this work. May they be equally passionate about serving our Greenville County school family, and may they be committed to the highest standards of excellence and moral principles for our students. These things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Stiles. Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had lined up a student to do the pledge tonight from Hughes Academy. William Lewis was going to come and do that for my last board meeting since he held the Bible for my first board meeting. And of course he got a fever and is sick at home. He's more mad about not getting to do the pledge than he is about possibly missing a baseball game tomorrow night. So in William's absence, if you'll pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Okay, next item on the agenda is adoption of the consent calendar. Mr. Sutter. Approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is appearance of visitors. We have 6 visitors signed up to speak. Dr. Stiles.
As each speaker's name is called, he or she should proceed to the podium at the end of the board dais where there is a microphone and light system. Each speaker has up to 2 minutes to speak to the board. The light will be green for the first 2 minutes and will turn yellow when 1 minute remains on the speaker's allotted time. In keeping with board policy KCA, abusive language or personal attacks aimed at students or staff members will not be permitted. All speakers are expected to behave in an orderly and respectful manner. The board will not engage in discussion with the speaker or respond to comments. The superintendent will designate a member of the staff to respond to each speaker in an appropriate and timely manner.
Okay, we're going to have 3 minutes. I'm not sure. Somebody said you said 2 minutes. Did you say 3?
I said 3.
Okay, 3 minutes. Okay, before we get started, understand we have some visitors out there.
Yes, we do. We have 3 young ladies, maybe more, from Anderson University. We have a variety of majors here tonight, from poli-sci to education, nursing, marine biology. So Anderson University, stand up. And then just right around the corner, Furman Furman University. And I'm telling you, they are loaded up tonight. So I touched on a lot of the majors, but there were a lot that I didn't. So if you would please stand up, ladies and gents, that would be awesome. Mr. Meek, I promised him that we wouldn't be long, and I think I jinxed us. So I'm hoping that I didn't sell him down the road here.
Thank you, Ms. Leventis Wells. We'll try to get through this pretty quickly. We have 6 speakers, 3 minutes each. The first speaker is Gary Collins.
I want to thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you. This big brief. Every October, the 3rd week, is the National School Bus Safety Week. We're all aware of that. And we're giving special attention to all the danger areas outside and around the school bus, paying particular attention to loading and unloading zones. That's the most dangerous part of the school bus. That includes the stop arm violations. That includes oncoming back traffic, make sure they're stopped and clear so that we can safely deliver the student in Graham County. In the clearance zone around, there's a 12-foot area. So once our lights are on call school bus driver, forgive me. So once our lights are on and we're paying attention to that oncoming traffic and from the rear, from the left and the right. And that's as we get to the stop safely. Okay, we understand the traffic congestion and the density that we face every day. Okay, as a school bus driver, there's many of us that we have to deal with those dangers outside the bus. The one thing I'd just like to draw the attention to are the dangers within the bus. Okay, and I'm not trying to be in a negative light, but the dangers are just as great, if not greater, inside the school bus, and that is in a form of, there's one way to say it, student behavior, student management, from up and down the aisles all the time, not all the time, but as a general phrase, up and down the seats, the verbal assault, the just overall management of the student, and I'm gonna leave it at that. So, but my point is, I'm gonna get to, is we feel there's more that could be done with that, and we would just like the attention to be drawn to that as well. 54 of my fellow bus drivers have expressed that concern, and I do not represent them, but they told I could use that as they're the ones that has contacted me. And I'm not saying I'm the liaison, I'm not. But we just have to do something to prevent anything to happen from the cause of inside the bus as well as outside the school bus. And as of school bus safety just passing us, it's always school bus safety for the drivers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Next speaker is Nate Manning.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Nate Manning. I'm here as a parent of a JLman 9th grader and a JLman recent graduate. Actually started out kindergarten at Summit Drive Elementary under Dr. Mitchell Hofer over there. I'm also here to represent the Booster Club and JLman Athletics, and these comments are directed to the new school that is being planned on the JLman Athletic Complex. We appreciate the opportunity and have had several conversations over the past year or so with the school district, and appreciate the opportunity to work with them on what the new school would potentially do or not do to the JLman existing athletic facilities. We thought we came to a pretty good agreement, a mutually beneficial plan there, but we recently learned that from Mr. Lewis's newsletter that there are some DOT restrictions or new DOT requirements that may, due to the cost and funding, kind of throw a wrench into the existing plans. So what I'm here to just kind of go on record as saying is, it would be great. We're certainly not opposed to the school, but the bottom line is we want to make sure that whatever happens to the property, whether it's sold or whether the school goes up as planned, which again, we agreed upon during the discussions over the last year. So we just want to make sure that the athletic complex is not affected any more than we've already discussed. In other words, when the practice field, the field that gets taken up by the new school or potentially by a sale, that it's replaced in the back of the complex, as we kind of already have agreed to, and that it doesn't get kind of lost in the shuffle. So that's it. And then actually I do just thank you, Mr. Lewis, as your last meeting, for your service to our district. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Next speaker is Sasha Patton.
Good evening. My name is Sasha Patton. I've spent 14 years as a public school teacher and hold a master's degree in elementary education. My children are 8 and 3 years old. After spending the better part of this year searching for and working towards solutions to add recess time to the school day, I'm here tonight as an advocate for the children of Greenville County and the state of South Carolina. I'm also here to share my gratitude. On October 11th, this board discussed the topic of recess in elementary and middle schools, and I want to thank you all for your time and attention to that discussion. Having stood at this microphone many times to shed light on the need for more recess, I deeply appreciate you making the time to talk through the issue. I desperately wanted to be here on that day, but was homesick with COVID. I listened to the meeting and want to thank you and share my input on your discussion. Specifically, I want to thank Mr. Lewis for submitting the formal request asking that recess be discussed, Andrea Bell and Jeff McCoy from the Office of Academics for preparing the slideshow and presentation, Ms. Mosley and Ms. Bush, I want to thank you for saying that students need a more balanced day and recess should be equitable across the district. Mr. Suddeth, thank you for pointing out that brain breaks are not the same as physical activity. And Ms. Doolin, for the idea of morning recess occurring before the tardy bell rings instead of students sitting quietly indoors. I share this idea and taught in a school district with 92 elementary schools, and it was very successful. And Ms. Leventis Wells and Ms. Bell, thank you for acknowledging the need for principals to know that 30 minutes of recess is actually allowed. And lastly, a special thank you to Mr. Meek. You offered your time to those who spoke at the start of the meeting, asking if they'd like to give feedback on the discussion. I was disheartened to hear Mr. Meek's request be denied, and I hope to see that opportunity presented by members of this board in the future and regularly. Had I been given that opportunity, I would have asked you all to discuss the positive impact of recess breaks on behavior in the classroom, student attentiveness, and engagement and mental health, and ultimately how these play an undeniable role in job satisfaction and teacher retention. Thank you all for recognizing the need for new or renewed policies. In closing, I want to ask that Greenville County Schools keep this momentum going by creating official district policies on the following. Number 1, require a minimum of 30 minutes of recess for elementary and middle schools during the school day. 2, require indoor recess be active and social. And 3, eliminate the use of games on Chromebooks, tablets, and phones during indoor recess and any free time students may have. This issue will ultimately need to be addressed at the state level, and I plan to see that work through. The well-being of our children and teachers is well worth rethinking how we schedule the school day. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Patton. Our next speaker is David Harner.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm with Nate Manning here and also on the Booster Club at J.L. Mann High School. I have a rising 9th grader. He's in 8th grade now at Beck, and I have a 10th grader at J.L. Mann. I love what the young lady just said. I mean, recess is critical. Athletics is critical. I'm here representing the Booster Club on behalf of the athletic program. I mean, I think I want us to all remember with J.L. Mann, the school was moved 20 years ago, but the athletic facility was not. Okay, so it's like a 50-plus-year-old athletic facility, and I was fighting my kid this morning about get off the phone, please get outside, and I look up at the overarching that, okay, we've got this complex it's about to lose its main practice field. Like it's one practice field is going to go to an elementary school. And I'm like, holy cow. So we worked with Mr. Carling, we worked with Mr. Davey, we worked with Mr. Lewis. Okay, we can get our heads around it if we can replace the practice fields someplace on campus. And we figured that out, and then the newsletter did come as just a gut punch that, well, you know, DOT, $8 million roundabouts, might just have to kill it, we'll sell the land and no improvement. So please allow our comments to be echoed. It's all about the kids. It's all about the opportunity. It's all about the recess. It's all about getting them outside, off their phones, away from drugs. Give them something to focus on. Athletics is powerful. If you take that field away, please make sure we do what we said, which is replace the practice fields. And if the project is a bust, please don't sell that field. Allow Jailman to continue to use it. Let's reinvest in this 50, 60-year-old athletic facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harner. Next speaker is Rachel Turner.
Hi, my name is Rachel Turner. I am the teacher cadet instructor at Malden High School. Hi, I have been teaching joyfully for 26 years, and 22 of them have been in Greenville County. And the young people from Furman and Anderson, if any of you are planning to teach, you're entering the absolute best profession you could ever attend. So I applaud you if you're doing that, and I encourage you to continue. I wanted to spend just a few minutes tonight to thank the board for your support for future educators, and just to tell you, last month, with the support of Dr. Royster, the Greenville County Teacher Forum, I worked with Kelly Nally, Lindsay Beeman at our high school, Caitlin Scott, and we put together the I Teach Conference for Future Educators. And these are teacher cadets from around the upstate. We had around 400 participants to take place at the Roper Mountain Science Center. They attended workshops. They had Dr. Fran Rogers was our guest speaker, our professional speaker. They had sessions, professional development opportunities to talk with each other and learn about the teaching profession. And it was really exciting to see all these young people excited to become teachers. Mr. Sailors, I believe you were there for pictures. It was nice to see you support us as well. So I want to thank you for that opportunity, which is just tremendous to be able to work with these kids. We had 2 years off because of COVID, but it was nice to have that conference back. Another huge supporter of our program is Derek Lewis. So Derek, I wanted to spend a few minutes tonight to publicly thank you for the, I'm gonna cry, what in the world, for the support that you've given our program over the last 4 years. He has committed so much time with these future educators. He has donated, I would say, close to 500 children's books through First Steps that we've been able to give to kids in the community. We have delivered them, we'll deliver them this Saturday for our trunk or treat at Malden High School. The kids in the community will come to visit our Cookie Monster theme and get a book to go with it, and they can gobble up a book while they gobble up cookies. We've donated at Bethel Elementary to kindergarten students who've needed books for the summer, so our kids were able to do that, and that's all because of you. When you came to visit our classes, you said, what do your kids need? So you gave us books to give to our kids in the classes where my students are working. I want to thank you for that. He also volunteered his time to come and listen to a panel of Ed 2400 students, my seniors who are delivering their senior thesis. He sat on the panel and asked questions and answered, and it was just such a great experience, and I'm going to miss you terribly. The kids will too. So on behalf of the students from the last 4 years that you visited, I want to say thank you. Wish you the very best as you're leaving, and I'll leave you with a benediction from the book of Numbers in the Bible. It says, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you and give you peace. So thank you, Mr. Lewis. We have a present for you. It's a t-shirt from our I Teach conference. It says love first and teach second. Love first, teach second, and a thank you gift from all the kids. So thank you, and we love you, and we'll miss you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Next speaker is Dr. Crystal O'Connor.
I'm so thankful that since I only have 3 minutes, y'all said such lovely things about Derek. So now I can just say, Derek, you're awesome. I've loved working with you. All the others of you, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for, but tonight I'm here to pay tribute to Lisa Wells and the time that I got to enjoy spending with her. From the time that I called and urged her to run for school board the day before signing, and she did. And here we are 12 years later, and I could not be more grateful for all of that deep, personal commitment that you've given tonight you've heard a little touch of the kinds of things that board members do and care about. And you've done it all with being a great advocate, great with budget and finance and facilities and advocacy, and also instruction and academics, which was where our heartstrings tied over that. You're a great mom. What you've done by virtue of understanding what kids go through is really phenomenal. You've attacked the big problems and the little problems for each individual who needed you and their families and the communities. You made my time as a board member just so much more exciting. All the hours we'd spend in booths of restaurants or during conferences or out or in our homes spreading out papers, and it's like being in graduate school. And we had so much fun, whether it was a board work or association work for what we wanted to do at conferences. I thank you for that. Only on the days when you might say to me, what did you think about page 57 of the budget? And I'd be like, are you kidding me, Lisa? So there were certain things that I just could not hang with you about. But I was grateful that you would prompt me to do my homework when I wasn't. And if I couldn't understand it, you would help me figure it out. And I appreciated that. You've done that for a lot of people. I want to say that I appreciate you creating an opportunity for me to lead the Instructional Policy Committee review for the first 2 years, and then you stepping in after that. That years-long work made such a big difference for the district. The way you went about it, you're hardworking, you're effective in what you do, and you're extremely good-natured, even when it's hard. And if I can say one little tiny moment more.
Dr. O'Connor, your time is up.
In the morning when I kept you up and you couldn't get your rest, you still forgave me for that. So
Thank you, Dr. O'Connor. Thank you. That completes our items for visitors. Our next agenda item is the superintendent's report. Dr. Royston.
Thank you, Mr. Meek. I have no formal report tonight, so I'll yield my time back to the chair.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is action items 501. That is innovative course approvals. A recommended motion coming from the committee of the whole does not need a second, is to approve the local board courses as presented. Is there any discussions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, 5.02. The recommended motion coming from the committee of the whole is to approve the revisions to board policy IHC. Is there any discussion? Ms. Wells.
Yeah, I guess just a question, because there was a second bullet that was added under academic achievement, credit, and content recovery, that the district administration will provide assistance to high schools for the implementation of both programs. So I remember when we first changed this policy, there was a lot of differences in how much and how content and credit recovery was being offered in our high schools. So is the intent of the policy now that there's a standard for that? Is that, are we?
There is a standard in a sense as far as how the platform that we're using, which before, as you know, was a little bit all over the place. So there is a standard platform now for how that's offered for content recovery for students coming out for content recovery, and certainly for credit recovery.
Okay, so now all the high schools are aligned to the same program and format and what they offer. Are they also offering the same level of content and credit recovery opportunities?
Are you talking about number, or are you talking about levels of courses?
Yes.
Okay, so yes.
Yes.
Limited only to, of course, if the students need to do it during the day, space in labs for students to do that. there is still, while we do have the platform in-house, Greenville County Schools, certainly the state of South Carolina still offers credit recovery through the virtual school, which students can do as well. The state just changed the regulation that prohibited in the past from a kid who failed an honors course to do credit recovery because it used to be CP credit recovery. So the state has since changed that regulation under the UGP where kids can recover credit even if they failed an honors course as of this year.
And then the part about the information being communicated to parents, so similarly, just trying to understand, are we, because there was some disparity
Yes.
in how that was being communicated and who could take advantage of the opportunity, et cetera. So
Yeah, so we've had that conversation, at least, I remember at least once. I think Mr. Reimer probably could speak, he may have had additional times with the principals, but talked about communication to them, to parents, also through guidance offices, particularly for students who fail or are in danger, if you will, of failing. I think as we mentioned, maybe the COW or the previous board meeting, we really are trying to get more students through content recovery to recover content while they're in the class versus waiting to fail the class and then have to go to credit recovery.
okay, so I just wanted to understand that I thought there was probably deliberateness in that extra sentence. I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure I understood it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wells. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Next item is 5.03. The recommended motion coming from the Committee of the Whole is to certify the slate of delegates with each trustee named as both a delegate and an alternate, and with the vice chair assigned 3 votes and the remaining trustees 2 votes each. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is 5.04, nomination of South Carolina School Board Association Region 15 Director. The recommended motion coming from the Committee of the Whole is to nominate Glenda Morrison Fair for the office of South Carolina School Board Association Region 15 Director effective November the 8th, 2022. It does not need a second. Is there any discussion? Ms. Wells.
Take advantage of every opportunity, every last opportunity to speak. I just want to say I appreciate Glenda Morrison Fair being willing to take over the position. I have enjoyed being on the State School Board Association and really being able to connect across the state with the work we're doing. Chuck has been instrumental in so much of the work that the state organization has been able to do, and it's a very dynamic one that really speaks on behalf of every district in the state, every school in the state. So it takes some extra work, and Glenda's always been willing to. She's in attendance at conferences. She's engaged with other folks. She's finding out what other districts are doing. So I do want to say I just appreciate that and appreciate the opportunity I've had for several years to serve in that position. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wells. Any further discussion, comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries. Congratulations. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 5.05, physical education exemptions. The recommended motion coming from the administration is to approve physical education exemptions for 1 student at Riverside Middle School and 1 student at Wade Hampton High School. Is there a maker of the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the administration's recommendation.
We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries. Next item is 6.01, committee liaison reports. Do we have any, Ms. Wells?
First, I would like to commend all those, Dr. Royster, who were involved in the success of the fundraiser for the Greenville County School Foundation golf tournament that was held at Top Golf. Whitney, it was phenomenal. The team I played on, we did not win, but we had a great time. And many of the school district personnel were there because we didn't have school that day. So even though we didn't have school, everybody was still working. So I thank all of you from the district who worked to make it such a success. And just know all of the funds will go to a great cause, our students and scholarships, et cetera, and teacher cadets, and all that we do with the Greenville County School Foundation. So Dr. Royster, thank you for a beautiful day that you ordered for us, and all the teams, we were booked solid. So great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leventis Wells. Any other reports, comments? Hearing none. Next item on the agenda, 7.01, monthly finance report. Dr. Royster.
This is not a month where we normally have a finance report. As a couple of reminders, one, next month at the Committee of the Whole, we will be presenting the external audit and in order to meet the statutory deadlines for providing that information to the board and for you to accept the audit. We did include, very late in your packet, we did include a rundown of expenditures under ESSER. We have it divided by CARES Act, ESSER 1 and ESSER 2, and you'll see the categories in which you all approve funds, how much we expended in each one. You'll also see, as we have indicated from the beginning of getting any federal funds for COVID relief, or whether they be CARES or ESSER, if there were existing general fund expenses where we could legitimately journal entry those expenses to ESSER, we have done so. That's created additional fund balance, which you then have the discretion to spend without restriction. You all have already approved the expenditure of some of that in last year's fund balance. We'll be bringing a recommendation later this year to approve some more, but you'll also see in each category the amount we were able to journal entry that was added back to fund balance for that fiscal year. We kind of went back and forth of perhaps trying to develop what we thought might be the easiest way to lay this out. Hopefully that's fairly clear and understandable. If not, certainly any question you all have, you feel free to ask it tonight, or if you want to send us a follow-up question, because I know you just got it. It's not a matter for action, but we simply wanted you to have that, as we indicated in response to some of your requests earlier. We will continue to generate some amount above that which we will actually spend. We will not spend everything that's budgeted, and we'll either come back to you with some recommendations for spending that directly from ESSER, or simply seek out other journal entries that we can make for the next 2 years. One of which would be virtual school, because it's in the general fund budget again this year, but was not in the ESSER spending plan, so we actually can journal entry that. Probably end up with somewhere north of an additional $12 million, $14 million beyond that which you see reflected in the reports.
Thank you, Dr. Royster. Any questions? Ms. Wells.
I hadn't had a long time to look at it, and I'll look at it a little bit more in the next couple of weeks. But so we had ESSER 1, basically 15 million, 15.7 million returned to the general fund and capital. I guess there was 700,000 of that to the capital fund.
Right, so 7.1 to the general fund balance, and right at 700,000 to your point to capital fund balance.
And the 7.8 out of from the FY20 fund balance. So 15 million from there, 47 million from ESSER 2 back to fund balance, right? Just so items we had expense that now go, we covered with our ESSER, and then 13 million from ESSER 3. So I hesitate to use the word windfall, but those three numbers represent sort of what we were able to just gain back from our operating budget over the last 3 years with these ESSER funds that we can now reallocate to capital or to additional operating expense.
Well, what we will likely recommend, as we have consistently done in the past, will be to allocate those things to non-recurring operational budget items or capital non-recurring, probably leaning more so to the capital side, because we don't really have, as you all know, in our budget, general fund budget, we don't really have many non-personnel and non-recurring items. Non-personnel is only $57 million. And within that, almost all of that's a recurring cost.
And is there's a downside to using that money for the recurring costs? If we wanted to say we want to use that money and use it to help us keep our operating expense lower for the next 3 years, there is a downside to that, right? From a
Yes,
rate
because
point.
as you probably recall, we're already using we started with 20 million.
20.6.
20.6.
20.6.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. Using general fund balance to fill the general fund budget. Then we reduced that down to
13.3.
13, a little over 13 this year. So we need to continue to step that reliance down. So we would not likely bring you any sort of recommendation to expend this non-recurring revenue on anything that would be recurring.
So then what we could do though is take that money and if we devoted a lot of it to capital, that you could hold that and put that out over a period of time. So we know we've got a lot of additions to a lot of our schools coming in the next 5 years.
Well, what we're looking at now, some of which depends on kind of our final accounting for this, and when Green Finney completes the external audit, having a comfortable fund balance number that we can come back to you and recommend expenditures. Likely the bulk of that will be two things. One, accelerating some projects, some of the major projects, which means we can then pull all of our capital projects forward some, because we believe the growth is continuing to ramp up, and that to do those projects sooner will be in the best interest of our students and our future students. And the other, we've been hit with inflation in some of those areas. For example, camera replacement cost. So it'll probably, our recommendation will be along the lines of those two things.
Thank you, Ms. Wells. Mr. Sailors.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Robin, one quick question related to the formatting of the report, if I could, please. In the past, the color coding has been essentially blue, green, and red. Can you tell me why you changed it to Tennessee orange?
I'll let Mr. Davy answer that.
Yeah, well,
I was going to say,
those in the audience,
Mr. Davies should answer that.
yeah, well, those of you in the audience that don't know, Mr. Davies is an avid Alabama fan. There we go. I'm getting every dig in while I can, brother. Thank you. Terrible. I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Sailor. Ms. Goodwin Caldwell.
Tigers.
Dr. Royster,
Probably didn't do that on purpose, didn't you?
for that jail man project, the DOT, it's gonna cost what, 8 million? Can some of this money go toward that?
We would not, at this point, recommend that the school district spend $8 million mitigating traffic issues that are not directly related, in our opinion, to the school.
So we basically, they want us to pay all of that in order for us to do the school, so we basically really not gonna be able to do the school there.
8 million above the already 1 million that we budgeted for traffic changes for ingress and egress, which is adding turning lanes at the main entry point of the school. Now, we've had one meeting with the city, and we have a meeting scheduled for November where's Julie? Scott, the 16th, that involves all parties, the city, SCDOT, don't call it C-Funds anymore, the C-Funds Committee, and the district.
But
So
can
we hope to reach some different conclusion after that meeting.
But some of these funds can be used for that, depending on what comes out of that meeting.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis.
I guess just to follow up on that question, so you don't intend to bring us recommendations to spend all of this money before the November 16th meeting?
No, sir.
And so those dollars, while they haven't been allocated, could be used for some sort of resolution that you reach with the folks. If you were to come back to request additional funds on our end, it could come out of these dollars.
Right, well, whether we would request additional funds or we would request shifting the site of the school, there would be some additional funding required in
Right.
either circumstance. But a new site would probably be somewhere in the range of $2 to $3 million.
Okay. And then just to follow up on the question that the gentleman raised tonight, if the school is moved to a different site, some of the facility improvements that were planned, we heard at the CAL may not happen because those dollars would be needed to build the school at a different site. Is it possible that you could come to us with recommendations to use some of these dollars to make whole the athletic facility improvements that this board had already approved with these dollars, so that those facility dollars could go with the school, but we could still commit to finishing the projects that we talked about, like the new lacrosse field, the improvement to parking, some of the changes that were just needed at that site that maybe we don't currently have money for, but could have money in the future?
So some of those improvements, for lack of a better term, to the athletic facilities were directly related to, we were going to displace their athletic fields. What we would do is carefully look at the equity at J.L. Mann, because they are not the only school in the district that has athletic facilities that are older, in some cases older than the building they're in some cases as old as the building. We would look at that and see if there were issues that we needed to address from an equity standpoint. But just kind of off the top of my head, and not maybe I may leave one out, but while some renovations have occurred to them, Wade Hampton still plays in the stadium that was the stadium at the original Wade Hampton High. Of course, Greenville High plays at Serene Stadium, which is, I don't know, 1930s. It was formerly the Furman Stadium. Blue Ridge High School, the stadium there dates back to the construction of that base building there. I don't remember what year that was. I want to think it might have been in the 70s, maybe early 70s. Southside High, their football field, their baseball field, and their softball field remain at the site of the original Southside High. So we want to certainly make sure that we are equitable across the district with all of our facilities, and that they're safe and appropriate for use. But we need to carefully look at the equity to make sure we're not creating an issue there that we would not be able to replicate in other places in the district. But we would certainly look at that. Hopefully we can work out this issue and not be saddled with addressing the growth in traffic that's unrelated to the school itself.
Yeah, no, I mean, I certainly appreciate the equity challenge. I guess my final statement on this, because, it's apparently been declared that I'm not going to be here much longer, is that this board has, I believe, unanimously voted on these athletic facility improvements as part of a construction project that is on our long-range facility plan. And so I think it would just be important to just remind my colleagues that when we decide to take up our toys and build an elementary school somewhere else, there was still a promise made to the athletic programs at J.L. Mann to improve facilities that are dated and need to be updated. And this board had already devoted resources to doing those things. And so I just think it would be important for us to seek opportunities to fulfill the promises that we made to those individuals. But I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, that concludes our business part of the meeting. Ms. Wells.
Which I don't know that I've ever taken one in 12 years. So y'all and the people in the room that know me know I'm very passionate and I don't want to get emotional. So I wanted to say something, and I've been very reflective, but I'm going to read kind of what I wrote to my community so that maybe I can get through it and not get emotional. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm being boastful or prideful, because that's not the intent, but if that's what it is, well, okay, I'm not going to be here anymore. So so in June, I shook the hands of more than 1,500 young people as they walked across the stage to receive their high school diplomas. These students had just begun first grade when I first took office as a school board trustee in 2010. and I've had a hand in shepherding an entire generation of GCS students. To say that I'm humbled by this opportunity that I've been given is an understatement. I did not know what God had in store for me when Crystal O'Connor called me and asked me, to do this work. I had no idea what it was. And I couldn't have imagined 12 years ago that I would have still been here today. But I was raised by parents who taught me that you go where you're called, and when things get tough, you just lean in. So that's what I've done. My passion for education, community service, and making a difference for future generations has constantly fueled me. I've been true to my word. I said I would ask hard questions, and I wouldn't shy away from difficult conversations. And I've had many occasions to be a leading voice on some critical issues or to offer a dissenting opinion, and I charged forward and I didn't wilt. I believe in my heart that many advances that have been made in Greenville County schools are a direct result of my advocacy on this board, giving persistent voice to needs and nurturing long-term systemic change. Some of my priorities and proudest accomplishments are the addition of mental health services and emotional support in every school, better guidance counselor support through reduced student ratios and technology tools, astronomical growth in our career and technology programs, special education services delivered closer to home so families could stay in their community, significant investment in high school band programs, specifically in arts as a whole, increasing graduation rates in communities and for students who desperately needed the boost, decreasing class size so that teachers have more time to connect and support students, devoting planning period for elementary teachers, although there's still a little argument about that, whether or not we accomplished that, Fountain in High School, and Roper Mountain Environmental Center, and other major improvements on the mountain. That is the work I have done with this board for the last 12 years. I look back and take joy in all of those things. There's no doubt in my mind that many of the accomplishments that we made in that work have allowed us to weather the last couple of years better than we would have otherwise, and will provide a benefit for generations that follow. And that's something all our board members can be proud of. I had many people encourage me to run and to stay the course in this work. And while I feel inextricably connected to public education and the charge of that, I go back to the tenets of a calling, as my dad illustrated in his time in ministry, and which he said to me, you know when you're called and then you know when you're released. So this position was never a career political choice for me. It was a service to my community. So here I am, and I'm ready to pass the torch. I don't know who's going to follow me in this seat, and I worry a little. I'm a little control freak. So there's that little worry of who's going to follow me and who's going to be concerned about policies that I was concerned about in the 56th page of the budget. But I hope that whoever it is will have the same strengths that I think I brought to the seat, to be analytical but passionate, collaborative but willing to challenge the room, anxious to dig into details but knowing when to get out of the weeds, persistent, consistent, one who knows how to check their ego, a servant leader, and decidedly not political. This work requires vision to understand how actions today influence the future. Most recently, as Mr. Meek pointed out to me a couple of times, I coined the phrase, I guess, slippery slope sight. Decisions made today do have generational impact, and then it's important to see the potential for unintended consequences. So to the community, really across the community, the whole expanse of Greenville County, people who voted for me and people who didn't but supported me all the same, I appreciate the support and trust that I've been allowed to make the right decisions on the behalf of those folks and the thousands of students and families that has impacted and influenced. I've finished my service as strong as I could in making a difference for my work and being an advocate, and have a grateful heart that I was able to do so. Thank you to my colleagues who, sometimes painful conversations, long conversations, much longer than you wanted to have. But when I look at what we've done in the last 12 years collectively, in agreement and in a disagreement and in, pushing and pulling, we've done great work, and I'll always be grateful for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wells. Mr. Lewis, you have any comments?
I wasn't going to say anything.
I know.
I mean, I guess in addition to what Ms. Wells said, people ask me often what was the thing that surprises you the most about this district, and I would say that it is the people who work in the district office that really have surprised me the most. And I, as someone who's married to a classroom teacher, know how exceptional our classroom teachers are, and I believe every one of them that I've encountered is an exceptional person who is doing incredible work. But it is just so overwhelming, the amount of knowledge and passion that the people, particularly those in this room, have. And I think just the ability to answer, I think, easy questions, but apparently they're harder than I think, just so thoroughly and thoughtfully, so that I can understand how to explain to our constituents what you live every day, has just been a real blessing for me. And it's just been something that really overwhelmed me as I start to think about that, we have someone who is so understanding of educational law or education policy or transportation or developmental needs of students, or just every one of those departments is it's just a blessing. And so I thank each of you for what you bring to us to make it easier for us to make difficult decisions. So thank you, Dr. Royster, for putting that team together.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. On behalf of the board, we wish you both good luck and a nice future, and we may see you again at somewhere. We don't know. And I think we've all been on the other end of those conversations you were talking about, and we will remember those. So I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion adjourned. We are adjourned. Thank you all.